iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max, official release date, price, specs and features. iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max, official release date, price, features and specs. The iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max are finally official. The iPhone 14 has finally been officially announced, a year after the arrival of the iPhone 13. But, exciting though it is, it's not the best new iPhone that Apple has announced. That accolade goes to the iPhone 14 Pro and its supersized sibling, the iPhone 14 Pro Max. As before, these are beefed up, pro-grade alternatives to the standard iPhone, and this year's upgrades focus on the camera and screen, with special mentions going to the supposed life-saving potential of the new crash detection feature, and the dynamic island, which replaces the suddenly deeply unfashionable notch of last year's iPhones. iPhone 14 Pro at a glance. Two Pro models, iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max. New, brighter display that goes to 1600 nits. Thicker bodies with larger camera bumps. New 48MP main camera. Front notch replaced by a dynamic island. iPhone 14 Pro release date. Apple has announced that the iPhone 14 Pro will go on sale on 16th of September 2022. Pre-orders begin on Friday 9th of September 2022. iPhone 14 Pro price. The iPhone 14 Pro is priced from £1099, $999 and $1749 odd, while the larger iPhone 14 Pro Max starts at £1,199, $1,099 and $1,899 Australian dollars. In each case that gets you a 128GB version of the phone, but there are further storage options, right up to 1TB priced $1,499 for iPhone 14 Pro and $1,599 for iPhone 14 Pro Max. iPhone 14 Pro design. Guess what? The iPhone 14 Pro looks very much like the iPhone 13 Pro at first glance. Look a little closer, though, and there are notable differences. For starters, there are new colors. The iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max are available in silver and gold, which are returning colors, but also space black and deep purple, which are new. The iPhone 13 Pro's silver blue, alpine green and graphite are gone. Elsewhere, the camera cluster on the rear of the phone is even bigger than before, and the overall dimensions are ever so slightly larger than before, but we're talking tenths of a millimeter. The biggest news on the design front, though, is the replacement of the notch, which houses various sensors and encroaches onto the screen of the iPhone 13 Pro, with the dynamic island, which houses various sensors and encroaches onto the screen of the iPhone 14 Pro, but in a very different way. iPhone 14 Pro display. If you're an AV aficionado, this is where things get interesting. The big news is that screen, which is the same size, 6.1 inch for the Pro and 6.7 inch for the Pro Max, and pixel density, 460p for both iPhones, as last year's models, has thinner borders and is significantly brighter, with a peak brightness of 1600 nits over last year's 1200 nits. That has the potential to make a big difference to HDR movies, some of which are authored to 2000 nits and above. Like its predecessor, the iPhone 14 Pro supports Dolby Vision, HDR10 and HLG, and we should expect brighter, punchier, more accurate HDR movies from the new Pro models. The new phones will apparently go as high as 2000 nits for outdoors use when required, too. iPhone 14 Pro power and battery life. The Pro models always offer a little extra something over the other handsets in order to justify their higher price tags, but today's announcement was a real watershed moment, with the iPhone 14 Pro models debuting a new, previously unannounced A16 processor, while the non-Pro variant sticking with the A15 Bionic from the iPhone 13 range. That's a pretty big deal, as Apple usually uses the same chipset across its entire iPhone range. In fact, it has done so in every iPhone since the iPhone 5S and 5C landed with different processors in 2013. Different processors draws a real line between the two ranges. The iPhone 14 Pro Max's A16 chip is one of the first 4nm chips in existence and apparently provides a serious power boost over the 5nm A15 Bionic. Apple says its CPU uses 20% less power used than the A15, while its GPU is said to boast 50% more memory bandwidth. All told, the company claims the A16 is the fastest chip ever in a smartphone. Apple doesn't talk RAM, but in the run-up to launch it was speculated that all iPhone 14 models would have 6GB of RAM, and we haven't yet seen any evidence of that not being true. iPhone 14 Pro camera. The headline feature of the iPhone 14 Pro's camera is a 48MP main sensor with a quad-pixel sensor. That's a huge improvement on the 12MP found on the iPhone 13 range. Larger sensors mean a larger camera bump, mind. The leaked iPhone 14 Pro case that pointed to a larger camera island, larger lenses, larger flash and larger LiDAR scanner has turned out to be correct. It doesn't necessarily look pretty, but the performance could be stellar. iPhone 14 Pro versus iPhone 14, early verdict. It turns out that most of the big rumors were correct, and the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max are shaping up to be killer handsets. Many will welcome the advanced camera tech, less obtrusive cutouts on the screen, and improvements in battery life. AV nerds, like us, meanwhile, will be excited about the extra brightness apparently offered by the display, which should make for a more thrilling HDR movie experience. Equipping the Pro variants with the A16 chipset and keeping the standard iPhone 14 and 14 Plus on the A15 Bionic is a huge decision that could convince more people to upgrade to the more powerful handsets, though it will also likely annoy buyers of the more affordable iPhones who feel they are being treated like second-class citizens. Of course, at this point we're just going on specs. We'll deliver our full verdicts on all of the new iPhone's models once we've got hold of handsets for full reviews.